Ecclesiastes 7, verse 1. A good name is better than a good ointment, and the day of one's death is better than the day of one's birth. It is better to go to a house of mourning than to go to a house of feasting, because that is the end of every man, and the living takes it to heart. You know, this passage really hit home for me lately. I think it spoke to something that I've been feeling for a little while, and that's that your death day can be better than your birthday. And I had to think about that for a while. Like, how can your death day be better than your birthday? And I think it's because when you are born the day of your birth, you're all potential. There's no substance. You haven't done anything with your life yet. But if you've lived your life well, if you've run the right race, then the day of your death could be the best day of your life. But if you've run the wrong race, then the day of your death could actually be one of the worst days of your life. Like, how terrible would it be to realize that you've been going in the wrong direction for most of your life, and then on the day of your death to have regret? You know, an analogy that I like to use when I think about this is in sports, in basketball and football, when an athlete hoists up their championship trophy for the first time, they have this face of just pure bliss. They're so happy and excited, and there's usually tears of joy. I also think of another analogy of weddings and marriages. I love whenever I'm at a wedding ceremony and the bride comes out, and everyone always turns around to look at the bride, and a few people, including me, will turn around and look at the groom, because the groom's face says it all, right? Most of the time, the groom is ecstatic, and sometimes he's weeping and he's crying. And I think that those two analogies are so apt for what our day of death could be like if you run the race correctly. There's a passage in the Bible that I don't want to say vehemently, but I really disagree with. And that's in Revelation 21. And in that, the new creation, the new Jerusalem is coming down out of heaven. And John says that God will wipe away every tear, and there will be no more mourning, no more crying, and no more tears. When I think of those pictures of the athletes hoisting up their championship trophy, or the bride looking at his groom, I feel like personally I'm gonna cry the day that I get into heaven, if God willing that happens. If I've run the race correctly, there's gonna be a lot of prayerfully tears of joy and celebration. What do you think it feels like? No, keep going. I want you to keep going. We'll edit all this out.
Okay, yeah.
Keep going.
Silence.
Yes, we'll do the radio silence. So what do you think now about, like, what does it feel like to be spiritually dead?
I think being spiritually dead feels like just going through the motions of every day, and I feel like it could be compared to like just feeling like a shell. I think, like, for me personally, whenever I lose focus on just striving to be a better disciple and focus more on just meaningless daily things, or just the worries of life, it can become very mundane. I think Jesus, because of his sacrifice, he allowed us to have purpose, and that is just having a relationship with God and serving him and glorifying him, and I think because of that, we were given, with that purpose, we're given joy. For me personally, passion. I feel like a very passionless person, but with like God and with my relationship with Him, that's an avenue where I can find, I guess, passion for Him.
We know that what we do will never be enough to save us, that the cross and Jesus' sacrifice is what saves us, and God's mercy and His grace for us is what saves us. But it makes you want to live as if what you do does save you, if that makes sense. Because there's almost like a gratitude in like, wow, this is how God sacrificed for me and letting His Son die on the cross. This is how Jesus sacrificed for me. How much more should I strive every day not to be perfect, because we know we won't be perfect. We know that we're saved not by works, but by faith. And so with that, I feel like, at least for me, there is always a like, oh, I'll never be perfect. But it's almost like I have to really remind myself, like, I'm not living for myself. And in trying to be perfect, that is living for myself, if that makes sense. I'm living for Jesus. And so if I'm truly grateful and I'm truly, if I really honor and try to honor God, then I will be trying to obey Him and do the best I can to live my life in a godly way.
Lately, I've been thinking about death a lot, and thinking about what will happen if I die tomorrow. Have I done enough in my life? And I think the answer is no, because the answer will never be yes, because compared to Jesus, what Jesus has done for us, it will never be enough. And I don't think I'm afraid of death anymore, because death doesn't have final say in my life anymore, because God does. As long as I put my faith in God and trust Him with His plan, it will be all okay at the end. The cross reminds us of God's mercy and what He did for us. We didn't deserve it, but He still did it. And the cross replaces fear with faith, sadness with hope, and uncertainty with promise of something better. And for the end, I just want to read scripture in John 8, verse 51. Truly, truly, I say to you, if anyone keeps my word, he will never see death. When I read it like this, it sounds kind of easy, just to keep faith in God. But when the hard times come, it's not that easy. And when the hard times come, I want to encourage you to ask yourself, have I done enough in my life to make God proud?